Hey guys, welcome to another live stream. Yes, 2 live streams in 1 week. What's going on? Well, I thought that since we really only have one more video to go before we finish the Gospel of Thomas, that I may as well finish the decoding and then we can move on to other subject matter. And I did have some time today to actually do a live stream, and so it kind of there was a convergence of opportunity and me just thinking I really would just like to finish the Gospel of Thomas while I'm on a roll. And as I said, because I do have other subjects that I want to discuss with you. I have more information regarding Betelgeuse. I've got some information regarding a comet that could be visible with the naked eye mid-September. If this comet is as bright and can be seen with the naked eye as they are predicting, then I do think it's very significant, especially since we've seen Betelgeuse brighten and we've seen the blue star in the constellation of the Big Bear as well, and how that ties into prophecy. So I have looked at all of the constellations that this comet is actually moving through, and it could be quite significant. So that's something else I did want to bring with you guys. Good afternoon, Rochelle. Glad that you can join us. I don't know how many viewers we'll have on this live stream. It is quite early for those in the Northern Hemisphere, but as I said, I just thought I have the opportunity. Why not just do the rest of the decoding, and then we can complete the Gospel of Thomas and move on to other subjects, because there is so much I want to cover, and we can, basically move on to other areas, basically, is what I'm trying to say, guys. So, for anyone that's new to the live stream, this is the final installment of the decoding of the Gospel of Thomas, which is part of the Nag Hammadi scriptures that were discovered in ancient Egypt in the 1940s. I go into that quite a lot in my first video in regards to decoding all of this knowledge from the Gospel of Thomas. It is literally one of the only unbastardized forms of scripture we currently have that has not been edited and not been corrupted by the Catholic Church. The other scriptures that I would recommend are the Colburn Bible. I've actually had someone who was listening to the live stream yesterday when I was doing the decode give me some additional information from the Colburn Bible, which confirms the interpretation of number 97 that I was finishing with yesterday in regards to the Father's kingdom being like a woman who was carrying a jar full of mead, and while she was walking along a distant road, the handle of the jar broke. So that was excellent confirmation, and I really love how I can find these confirmations in other scriptures. And so when you guys contribute that type of information, that's exactly what we should be doing to work together to try and uncover these truths. It's a team effort. I mean, I can't bring you all of the different verses from all of the different scriptures as I'm decoding the Gospel of Thomas, because it would just take me too long, and unfortunately I just don't have the time, guys. I mean, it wouldn't be 8 videos that it would take to decode the Gospel of Thomas. It would probably be 20 videos, So what I'm doing is actually just decoding the verses and giving you an insight to the information beneath the parables and the symbolism, and then hopefully you guys can take that and go and research further using the other scriptures like the Colburn. And I do know that there is a lot in the Colburn that actually connects to the book of Matthew, there are a lot of very similar verses from the Kolbrin, and you can see this correlation to the book of Matthew, and we can also see that in the Gospel of Thomas. So basically what the philosophers did, the divine philosophers did when they took this knowledge, was they wrote it into parables, and then they made lots of copies of these parables. And it wasn't, exact in the same way that they were relaying the knowledge. But what they did was try and have many different copies of the knowledge, so that when the time came in the cycle that they knew was going to happen, they knew it was coming, when the evil took control of the world and were in power, that they would work to destroy all of this knowledge. I mean, that's why they burned down the Library of Alexandria. That's why the Catholic Church went on a, slaughtering rampage around the world in the guise of the Crusades, and, saving the pagans and the heretics and, delivering them to Christ. It was just a cover for them going into all of these cultures, stealing all of the knowledge that they had, and then whatever they didn't want, they just destroyed it and burned it, and then they, basically killed anybody who was knowledgeable in these cultures and in these villages. And we saw this with the Cathars, who were the last true Christians. The Cathars were the Gnostic Christians. They were the last true Christians. If anyone were to ask me, well, what religion are you, Dee? How do you identify yourself? Well, I would probably say, first and foremost, I am a Hermeticist and I am a Gnostic Christian, because I do find that the Christian parables are something that I can relate to a lot easier, more than the Quran, more than the Hindu text. It's not to say that I don't like those texts and that they aren't valuable and that I, don't still read them and study them, but I just feel that I'm more aligned with Kabbalah as well, and the, parables within the Gospels, the Nag Hammadi Gospels, and the Kolbrin Bible. So the Gnostic Christians were the last true followers of Christ, because they still separated the Son and the Father, whereas modern Christians in these times, they've literally been fooled by the Pharisees into replacing God the Father with the Son. Okay, and so they are all being led down the wide path to destruction, unfortunately, and they have no one to blame but themselves, because they have chosen the path of ignorance. I actually did post a video from a Lakota elder who uploads lots of teachings and wisdom from the Native American Indian tribes, and he was relaying some knowledge in regards to some prophecy that is now actually starting to unfold. And I posted that in Keepers of the Flame, in the MeWe group Keepers of the Flame. So if you guys want to check out Keepers of the Flame, our study group, you can find the link for that under this video. But he basically was saying that in these times it was prophesied for his people that they would forget the teachings, they would forget the ancient knowledge and the sacred knowledge, and they would forget themselves, and ignorance would be the most dangerous weapon used against them in these times, in these lower ages. And ignorance really is the most dangerous thing. Ignorance is the worst. Forget, burnings at the stake. Forget them rounding up you know, all of the heretics and anyone that didn't follow the Catholic doctrine, the fact that they have allowed themselves to be fooled into accepting the Catholic canon and replacing God the Father with the Son is based in ignorance. And so it is ignorance that will destroy them. And so I found it really interesting that the Lakota elder was saying that this is how their people were warned as well. And there is another philosopher, I can't remember offhand. I was actually going to go and look it up after I saw this prophecy from this Lakota elder, because it reminded me of something that one of the philosophers said about ignorance being the most dangerous thing. If any of you guys remember who said that and want to post it in the chats, that would be great. But I can go and have a look for that after the stream and post that underneath the video in Keepers of the Flame. So yeah, it's ignorance, guys. You know, we don't want to be ignorant. We want to go out and seek knowledge. And ignorance is a choice, especially for Westerners. I mean, there really is no excuse that Westerners are ignorant of this information, of this knowledge, because it can be researched. If I've researched all of this knowledge, anybody can do it. And I've said before, you know, when I was in the education system, I was no A-grade student, believe me. You know, I sucked at maths. You know, I liked English and ancient history. They were my best subjects. Oh, and art. But, you know, I wasn't very good at maths at all. I wasn't very good at science and any of that kind of academia, you know, that kind of academic side of schooling. And so I lost interest in schooling a lot, because, you know, when you don't do well at something, well, you know, you don't continue to, you know, try and you know, apply yourself, and especially as a teenager. So, you know, I am definitely not someone who is academically inclined. But you don't need to be academically inclined to understand truth, okay? You just need to be dedicated and motivated with a pure intention of just wanting to find the truth and an understanding for who you are, and an understanding for the significance of your experience in the created world. That's really all you need, and just a basic understanding of mathematics, because really sacred geometry isn't something that is hard to grasp. And especially for me, who always struggled with, you know, academic mathematics in the way that it was taught to us in the schooling system, I love sacred geometry. You know, I love that side, that numerology. I love all of that. So yeah, don't think that you have to be highly academic and intelligent by today's standards of what they expect intelligence to be, because that really isn't what intelligence is. And you know that there can be somebody that is very book smart but very ignorant, and that is what we have. And you know, I find that the most ignorant people that I ever have discussions with are atheists and people who follow the idiots like Elon Musk, you know, these morons who are like Star Trekkies and sci-fi fanatics and Star Wars fanatics, and who just suck up all of this academic bullshit when it comes to science and you know, space travel and all of this shit. They really are morons, okay? When it comes to anything else, they really aren't very smart at, you know, they just aren't very smart at all. They can't think. I mean, you would have to be an idiot to be an atheist, because you have to be a shallow thinker, all right? So atheists believe in the Big Bang, right? So they believe that the Big Bang just happened and everything just was organized into a mathematical design just magically, okay? when you ask them what caused the Big Bang, you get crickets, okay? Because they haven't actually thought past that. They haven't thought deeply into that. They haven't had any contemplation on what came before the Big Bang. It's even with these Darwinists, right, that all believe in evolution, okay? So you ask them, well, what created the first living organism? Again, crickets. Okay, so they can say, okay, well, we all originate from the primordial swamp, right? And we were just this amoeba that like crawled out of the primordial swamp, and then we grew legs and all of this shit. Okay, so what created the primordial swamp? It's really not hard to show these people up for the idiots they are, because they can't think beyond the textbooks that they're given, and the textbooks don't tell them what was before the Big Bang, what was before the primordial swamp. So all they do is, they're very good at parroting. So anyone that's academic today is just very good at repeating what they've heard in the classroom back to the teacher accurately, and the person that repeats it back in the most accurate way gets the cookie. Okay, that's really what the education system is today, and the education system today, as we know it, is failing the children anyway. Most of them can't even read and write. Okay, and so yeah, so I just want you guys to know that you don't need to be academically inclined to understand this knowledge, and ignorance is a choice. So anyone who is ignorant, anyone who is a victim of their ignorance, please don't feel sympathy for these people. They have chosen this path. If you're going to feel sympathy for them, feel sympathy for their children, because it's their children who they are dragging down into the abyss with them, and that is going to weigh heavily on them as well when that time is upon us. And that time is coming. And I don't care that I sound like some weirdo, end of the, what do they call it? End times weirdo that's got the sign, the end is nigh, and like that. I don't care, if that's what people want to paint me as, because all I'm doing is repeating every single culture that talks about judgment, that talks about a time in the cycle. And yes, they all talk about a cycle, a great year, and that there's a time in the cycle when all souls are made to account for their actions. And so I am just repeating every single culture. So if anyone wants to say that I am crazy, then every single culture that I'm taking this knowledge from is crazy too. And that would be Hermetics, that would be ancient Egyptians, that would be ancient Greeks and ancient Romans, that would be the Gnostic Christians, that would be the Hindu, that would be the Norse, that would be the Hopi Indians, that would be the Lakota Indians, that would be the South American Indians, that would be the Chinese, that would be the Japanese mythology, that would be the European mythology. It's repeated over and over and over and over again. And they've done their best to try and destroy the knowledge as much as they can and fragment it. And it's taken me over a decade to put it all back together, and I'm sure I'm missing big gaps, and there is a lot missing in what we can put back together because of how successful the Catholic Church were at destroying all of this knowledge. But we've got enough. We've got enough to pretty much understand the main core of the truth that they were trying to hide from us, and that is that we all are divine portions and fragments of a creator, that there is different degrees of divinity within mankind, and this is what Jesus Christ represents. Jesus the Christ represents the highest degree of divinity within mankind. And we understand that we live in a cycle, and that they don't want us to know that, because can you imagine if we knew all of this knowledge? If the masses knew that they were accountable for their behavior, that the Christ was within, that there was a creator, and that we lived in a cycle, Do you think that they would be acting the way that they're acting right now? No, they wouldn't. They think that there's no accountability. They think that materialism, this is it, this is the extent of who we are. They don't know that they are a soul. They don't know that they have a divine portion within them. And so they're easy to control, because all the Catholic Church had to do was, hang fear over them and tell them that, if you don't get your vaccines, if you don't take your tablets, if you don't go to the doctors every time you've got a sneeze, you're going to die. And when you die, there's nothing. So that's one side of the story. Okay, they've got a couple of stories for all of us. They've pretty much put one out there for everybody. They're very good at understanding our psyche. Evil is very good at knowing how we work on an intellectual and a mental level. So they've got that story for those people, and then they've got the other story for the religious types, which is, you better do everything in your Bible, because if you don't follow the Bible to the word and listen to your priest and do everything your priest is telling you, because by the way, apparently there's some mandate from God that gave the priest the authority over the scriptures. I mean, I don't know where anyone's told the Catholic Church that they have the mandate from God, that they have the right to interpret the scriptures. I mean, Jesus Christ wasn't sitting at the Council of Nicaea when they decided on what books went into the Bible, but apparently, according to them, they've got last word, they've got the complete authority on over how the scriptures are interpreted. And I don't give a shit if there's 73 Bibles in the book or there's 66 Bibles in the book, according to whether you're a Protestant or you're a Catholic. The canon that every single sect of Christianity is using today, except the Jehovah's Witnesses, is based on Catholic canon. I don't give a shit if you worship on a Saturday or you worship on a Sunday or you don't have a statue in your church. If you think that that makes you any different than a Catholic, then you're an idiot, because it doesn't matter. Everything else that you are interpreting in that Bible, other than those tiny little differences, is literally Catholic canon. So basically that is what these people are all following. They're all following Catholic canon, and they're all being told that there's no such thing as reincarnation. When you die, you either go to heaven for eternity or you go to hell for eternity. So if you want to go to hell for eternity, then you just go and look outside the Bible and don't listen to your clergy. And if you want to go to heaven, then you better listen to everything we tell you. Don't you dare look outside that. You know what I mean? So they've scared them into being so fearful of death that they have power over them. But when you actually go and look at the knowledge for yourself and you understand these scriptures to the level that you will when you've studied them, okay, and when you've made it your focus, and your motivation is for truth, you will understand this knowledge to the level where you will know that you are a soul, you will know that you have a divine portion within you, and you will not fear death. And when you don't fear death, you will not fear them, you will not fear the world, you will not fear evil that has taken control of the world. And that is what they do not want. They do not want anybody knowing the truth, because then they have no power over us. Yes, they can go and lock me up in a prison, okay. Yes, they can do that, but they can't take away what I know, and they can't destroy my soul, okay. There's only one person, well, not even a person, I mean an entity or a source of power, because really God the Creator, God the Father, is so beyond our understanding, guys. There's no use trying to understand the Creator to that level, because you just never will. We don't have the faculties to understand the Creator, because we're just mere humans, okay, and our minds are just human minds. And I mean, we're talking about the Creator of the entire universe that created every single thing that you can see around you, down to the tiniest little microbe up to the most, enormous galaxy. So, to try and get your head around that, that the Creator knows when every leaf is going to fall off a tree. The Creator knows every hair on a caterpillar's leg. you know, when you start thinking about it at that level, it just starts to, you know, that's me, my mind's blowing. That's my mind-blowing meme, you know, when it's just like you just cannot fathom it. So what we do is we just put God into a way that we can understand God. And that's why we personify God. We bring God down to our humanness because it's a way we understand him. But we have to be careful that we don't limit the Creator, because we can't understand anything larger than our own self and our own minds, which is pretty much what atheists do. So, yeah, okay, so that's my bit of introduction to the last part of the decoding. Let's get stuck into these verses. I'm just going to have a sip of drink before we move on. Okay, so we were at number 98. Jesus said, "The Father's kingdom is like a person who wanted to kill someone powerful while still at home. He drew his sword and thrust it into the wall to find out whether his hand would go in. Then he killed the powerful one." Now, this is a pretty unusual verse. It's pretty out there. And I wonder about the translation of this verse and whether there's some words here that were probably mistranslated. So I'll do my best with this verse in the way that I interpret it, given all of the knowledge that I've studied and what I know about divine operation on the physical plane. So what I'm getting from this is that the divine nature, when the divine nature awakens in humanity at this time of the cycle, when the Christ light returns and our consciousness starts awakening and, you know, we start seeking out this knowledge and having an understanding for this knowledge, because a lot of you would probably have woken up back in 2012. Okay, and I do believe that's when the wave of ether and the Christ light really started to permeate through the material plane, and a lot of us just started questioning. You know, we probably knew from time to time that things weren't what they seemed, but during 2011 and 2012, I think there was a real shift in consciousness, and that's why they put that disinformation about 2012. December 21, 2012 was going to be when this big shift happened, and everyone was gearing up for this big material shift that we could visibly and tangibly see, that would prove everything to us that we had already felt on a very deep, innate level was true, and we weren't just deluding ourselves. And when that didn't happen, a lot of people abandoned their path because they doubted themselves and they doubted what they felt in those initial times, because it has kind of waned. But I do feel now that the solar activity is increasing again. I'm actually feeling very familiar realizations and epiphanies like I used to get back in 2012 and 2011. So I do feel that the veil is beginning to thin once again. Now this is what this verse, I think, is trying to communicate to us, because it says he thrust it into the wall to find out whether his hand would go through. Well, what if the wall was actually a mistranslation and it's the veil? Because there is a veil between the two planes. We've got the physical plane and we've got the material plane. There's actually three planes. There's a mental plane, there's a spiritual plane, and there's a physical plane. The mental plane is quite indefinable, and so we can actually put the mental plane and the spiritual plane together in a way, and then we have the material plane. So I just will say the ethereal plane, and that pretty much covers the mental and the spiritual, and then you have the material plane, the physical plane. And so there is a veil between these two planes. And when the ether returns, which is what the principle of rhythm is equating to in universal law. So we have the tide of ether, and ether is the fifth element, the element that they no longer talk about, that was very well known in ancient times and with the ancient philosophers, and even in the initial times of modern science, in the initial days of modern science, even Einstein and some of his, peers were actually acknowledging the ether as an element, and then suddenly that just disappeared, and now we've got what they call dark energy, this mysterious energy that they're trying to find with the God particle, and all of this type of mysterious and unusual and unexplainable activity that they're trying to investigate. They already know, okay? It's just they are mocking mankind, and they are just leading us down the wide path. I mean, science, modern science, is really just another form of religion, okay? It is literally based on faith, because modern science is not based on any evidence that is tangible, okay? So they don't know why the planets all stay in their course. They don't know what causes electricity. They don't know what causes magnetism. They don't know what causes the cycles on the sun. They don't know what basically keeps your heart beating in a particular rhythm. They don't know any of that. All they have are theories. So, i.e., all they have are beliefs, right? And it's interesting that they've even started to change the definition of scientific theory to mean that, well, our theories are so good that we may as well just call them fact. I mean, that's literally what they're saying now. That, oh, look, our theories are pretty much so spot on that we may as well just call them fact now. We don't actually need facts or evidence or hard physical proof. We can just tell you that our theories are that freaking good that they may as well be truth. I mean, this is what people believe, okay? This is how they're fooling people. So ether is the fifth element. They know about the ether, but of course they're not going to tell mankind about the ether. And the whole cycle of the great year is dependent on the ether. So when the ether is in abundance, so the flow of ether has returned to the physical plane, we have access to the Christ light, and God's influence on the physical plane is manifested in a more tangible way that we know and we understand, okay? And so that is the golden age, when the ether is returned and it's in abundance. And then it's just like the tide goes out, okay? And as the tide goes out, and this is what the zodiac Cancer represents as well, as the tide is going out, okay, and Neptune also represents the tide going out, and the tide of ether, okay? Uranus represents heaven, and Pluto represents the lower levels of the ethereal plane, otherwise known as hell, okay? And that's why Pluto doesn't get a good rap, all right? So as we move down the cycle, okay, we lose access to the ether recedes like the tide recedes, and that's why when you'll be looking at the symbolic archetypal symbolism for ether, you'll see water is used a lot. Water and the ocean is used a lot in the symbolism that relates to the ethereal tide, which comes and goes and moves in and moves out. And so as we're moving down the cycle and we move into the Silver Age and then we move into the Bronze Age, we've pretty much lost access to all of the ether, and we're in the most material and physical part of the cycle. And when we hit the Iron Age, well, we are just, basically material, and the only way we have access to the ethereal realm is probably in our dream state, but also just through this knowledge, okay? And maybe also our instincts, because, you know, if we tap into our instincts and listen to them, then that is part of the connection that we can still have to the ethereal through our soul, okay? So as we're moving now back into the golden age, because that's what happens at the end of the cycle, so we're now in the last degree of the great year, and this degree, so each degree within the great year is approximately 72 years, and no man knows the day or the hour when it's actually going to happen, okay? So this is another way that you can see that the modern Christians have been led astray with this belief that Jesus is God, because if Jesus was God, then Jesus would know the day and the hour, but it clearly says in the Bible that no man knows the day or the hour but God. Not even the angels know, okay? Only God knows. So it's an appointed time that is divinely timed, and we are now moving back towards that time, which is why we've consciously started to awaken and question. And as we start moving back towards when the ether moves fully into the material plane, there will be a time where just before we move through into the next great year and we're reset into a new year, okay, and that's really what a lot of the symbolism around New Year's Eve, you know, when they wear the masks, and on New Year's Eve when it strikes 12, the masks come off. See, a lot of the celebrations that we have, we've forgotten what they're about, okay? But if you actually understand the knowledge and you look at these celebrations, you start to understand that these are the symbols, these are the celebrations we kept to remind us of what they really meant. And so I think what this verse is saying is that when that wall thins, that the evil in control of the material world right now will have no more power and will be removed. So that's basically what I was using all of that explanation to give you an insight to this verse, because I can't really see anything else that it would relate to. And the way that it says thrust into the wall to find out whether his hand would go in, well, that's the wall of materialism. And once the wall of materialism has been dissolved, everyone will be seen in their true form. Masks will come off, the clock strikes midnight, and the divine souls among humanity, among mankind, will once again reclaim their rightful positions, because this kingdom belongs to the divine souls. That's why there's a separation in the Bible between the Jews and the Gentiles. The Gentiles are the mortals, the Jews are the divine souls. So all of these people running around over in a place called Israel, which was created in 1947, okay, and they all run around calling themselves Jews. Nobody knows who the Jews are. Only God knows his own. Only God knows his children. And when that appointed time is upon us, mankind will know who God's children are and who the real tribes of Israel are. And they are from the four corners of the world. That's also what that means. All the races, okay, are represented. Not just some ethnic class of people, ethnic group of people that have decided to call themselves Jewish, okay. And Revelation, is it 2:9? Okay, those who call themselves Jews but are not, but are a synagogue of Satan, okay, are being encouraged to believe that they are the chosen ones, okay, and they are going to be very, very disappointed, because the only one that appoints the true Jewish, the true Israel, the true tribes of Israel, and gives them reign once again over the kingdom is God the Creator, and that will happen at the appointed time, and nobody will have to be told. Nobody will have to be told, oh, that person over there is from a tribe of Israel, that person over there is a divine soul, oh, you better listen to him. You will know, because they will illuminate and they will look different to mortal man, and you will want to listen to what they say, because they are not going to muck around. So all of this mythology that these Pharisees are pushing to these modern Christians about Jesus returning and being a, gentle little lamb, and he's just going to, hold hands with everybody and sing kumbaya, and everything's going to just be just wonderful, and doves are going to be flying around, and rainbows, and that is just a complete delusion, because the Christed, and especially the most powerful of the divine souls, is coming back to clean up the frickin' mess that we've made. And we can see this in Kalki from the Hindu mythology, the destroyer of filth. So that is what we can expect, and that is what this verse is relating to, in regards to the Father's kingdom is like a person who wanted to kill someone powerful. Okay, killing and death and retribution is not something that the divine souls shy away from, because they're all so intent on appearing godly and holy and pure. And you would be better off thinking about how the Vikings were, how brutal they were, how, that is what we can expect. Brutal, no mercy shown for evil. I mean, how else? I had this idiotic New Age Christian. You've got your New Age Christians these days, and they're all about the love. And he's telling me that Jesus is coming back and it's going to be peaceful, right? And I said, well, can you explain to me how Jesus would remove evil from the face of the earth being peaceful? And of course he couldn't tell me that, because the only way you're going to remove evil is you have to literally destroy it. And the only way you destroy evil is you literally have to take it out, slay it. Okay, so yeah, that's what that verse is pretty much relating to from what I can see. And a lot of this is not going to occur until the tables turn. That's another saying, until the divine are back in their element. Okay, that's another saying that relates to what we can expect. And that's when they will illuminate and have full power over the material plane, and they will just, with a flick, get rid of evil. They're not even going to have to exert any energy, because that's how powerful the divine souls are. I mean, they're literally going to be the extension of the Creator on the physical plane. Godlike power on the physical plane. So yeah, it's not even going to be any real exertion of effort for them to remove evil, and it's not going to be a pretty sight. That's all I can say. And it could be really why the Kachina dolls were created as well, by the Hopi Indian. I always find that fascinating, that the Kachina dolls are created really strangely, like in a strange representation. And they say it's so that when the Kachinas return, that the children aren't afraid. And so that is going to be something that the divine souls will be very aware of, as well, as because, I laugh when the Christians all these modern Christians think that Jesus is returning and the Christed are returning for them. Like they've got this importance in everything. And the only importance that the divine souls will find within mortal humans will be the children, will be the safety and the innocence and purity of the children. That is what the divine souls will be protecting. It won't have anything to do with Christian adults, well, especially ones that call themselves followers of Christ. And I can tell you that 99% of them don't even go out and do anything Christ-like. Okay, they literally sit around singing songs and praising and worshipping Jesus when Jesus didn't even say any of that in the Bible. He asked nobody to praise and worship him while he was gone. He gave them the parable of the Good Samaritan so that they would go out and do works in his name while he was absent, to continue on his works. When I say to someone, oh, what is Jesus known for? Do people say, oh, yeah, Jesus is known for walking around, singing songs to himself, praising himself, telling everybody to worship him, telling everybody to praise him? Or do people say, well, Jesus was known for going around and helping people? Yeah, that's what Jesus was known for. So if they're supposed to be emulating Christ, because Christian literally means Christ-like, right? And Jesus tells them the parable of the Good Samaritan. The apostles tell them that they should walk in the ways of Jesus and to be Christ-like and imitate Christ. Then where are they all? You know, I said this yesterday. There's 332 million Christians in the US. So if there was 1% of these Christians being Good Samaritans, well, in every homeless camp over in America right now, you would see hundreds of thousands of Christians out there every day giving food, water, blankets, and helping the poor and destitute. So where are they? Yeah, missing in action. All right, 99. The disciples said to him, your brothers and your mother are standing outside. He said to them, those here who do what my father wants are my brothers and my mother. They are the ones who will enter the Father's kingdom. I'll just read that again. The disciples said to him, your brothers and your mother are standing outside. He said to them, those here who do what my Father wants are my brothers and my mother, and the ones who will enter my Father's kingdom. So it's just basically saying, do as I do, what I was just explaining. Be Christ-like. You won't go wrong. If you copy me, if you do what I'm doing, that by action, okay, none of this bullshit where, oh, by grace alone, I'm going to be saved. By grace alone. You don't do the works. It's by grace alone. Well, they don't read that last verse when they give you that verse about grace alone, by grace alone you are saved. They always leave off that last verse, number 10, where it says, and by the works in Christ, you were given. Right? They always leave that off. They ignore that. But it's like there's no use doing the works if you don't have faith in your Creator and the Christ within you, right? And if you have faith with no works, then that's dead. I mean, it literally says it in the Bible verse, you foolish person, do you want to be shown that faith without works is dead, as well, dead to you. I mean, it's dead, it's a dead action. So you need both. You need both. You don't just have faith, but you have actions as well. So what this verse is saying was, if you've got faith in Christ and faith in the Christ within you, and that's what's far more important, to have faith in the Christ within you, not faith in the Son, okay, because his time will come, and when he is known, you can give him reverence and you can give him gratitude and you can show all of the gratitude that you want, because he is your link to the Creator on the physical plane. So of course, when the Christ is among us, everyone does revere him because he is the link. The Christed are the link to the Creator. But we don't have that now. Okay, we can't tell who the Christ is. Okay, we don't know that. So the way that we can guarantee that we will get to the Father's kingdom without knowing who the Christ is, because he hasn't manifested and we can't see him, well, we just emulate him. we emulate him in action, and we have faith in the Christ within us and God the Father. Okay, that's what this is saying. And then you can't go wrong, can you? But if you're just going to, wing it and just hope that if you listen to the clergy and walk around praising and worshiping Jesus because you think that's going to impress him, then you're an idiot, because he's not going to be impressed by that. He doesn't need anybody to tell him how effing great he is. He knows he's going to be the most powerful human on the planet once he's illuminated. Do you really think he cares that you tell him how great he is when he knows he is the firstborn son of the Creator? Does God the Creator really care that we say how great he is? He knows. What does he need? A puny little human, a puny little mortal human to tell him how great he is? I mean, it's almost like blasphemous to think that the Creator needs us to tell him how great he is. I mean, really, it's like a little ant telling us how great we are. Do we care what the ant thinks? Do we care that the ant thinks that we're awesome because we managed to build a big brick house over their nest or near their nest, whatever? That's literally the same as us thinking that the Creator, whether we, religious people these days, modern Christians get so upset that atheists don't believe in God. Who cares what atheists believe? That doesn't mean anything to anybody. It makes no relevance. It changes nothing. So, and it's the same with them. Whether they go and spend every Sunday in church or not doesn't mean a damn thing to the Creator. As long as we put time aside to give reverence for our gifts that we have, to be thankful, and it doesn't even mean that you have to set aside a certain time every week, every time, and this mechanical worship. It just means that you have to be grateful internally. I mean, God already knows why even pray? He already knows what we're going to say. We are a fragment of God. Everything we feel, God knows. Everything we think, God knows. So I don't know, by them thinking they have to pray, it's really just belittling the Creator. Okay, let's keep going. 100. They showed Jesus a gold coin, and he said to them, the Roman emperor's people demand taxes from us. He said to them, give the emperor what belongs to the emperor, give God what belongs to God, and give me what is mine. So literally, it's self-explanatory. Give the world what belongs to the world. Keep the material to the material. Be in the world, but don't be of the world. But make your way in the world in the way that you have to. We all have to go and be part of the system that we're currently enslaved in. We have to do that to survive. Otherwise, you're going to go and live in some meth head camp on the sidewalk. I mean, that's your option. You can either just go and get a job, pay your bills, pay your taxes, pay your rent, buy your food, play along with it, or you can fight against the system, don't pay your taxes, don't pay your rent, and you're going to end up like Santos Bonacci, and we all know what happened to him. He ended up in jail because he didn't pay the toll, because of this stupid bullshit sovereign crap that they were all pushing. And I told him that you cannot expect evil to abide by their own rules. He was right in what he was saying. The sovereign citizens, I don't for 1 minute not think that they have found something that is in the realms of truth when it comes to the laws in how they were written. The fact of the matter is that the devil is now in control of the playing field, and the devil makes up the rules as he goes because he's the devil. And so if you want to go and try and take on the devil when he has the full playing field, controls all the rules, then you're going to end up worse off. You're going to end up in jail. And when you come out, you're going to be talking about flat earth. Okay? You're going to be mentally screwed up, or you're going to be compromised. They're going to compromise you in a way that you have to become one of their agents, because that's the only two options I can think about what happened with Santos Bonacci. But anyway, he is a very good example of what happens when you don't give the emperor what belongs to the emperor. Okay, give God what belongs to God. Well, you know, that is all your reverence, all your gratitude. He is your creator. You are an extension of him. Okay, and give Christ what is, you know, what belongs to him, because he is the firstborn of the divine souls of him. You know, he has the divinity within him to the highest degree. I mean, he is literally the representation, the representative, right, for God the Creator on the physical plane. He is the middleman, and he literally, it is in Matthew, the book of Matthew, where it says that, you know, Jesus is the mediator between God and mankind. He is the mediator. He is the middleman. And so give him due credit for that. You know, you can't go wrong when you are putting everything in its correct perspective and its correct context. What we have now is the Pharisees have taken control of the scriptures and the interpretations of the scriptures. The Pharisees have made themselves the representation of God on earth, and we have mankind are now worshipping the Pharisees. I mean, you only have to look at the Pope, the Jesuit, okay, that shouldn't even be in the papal throne right now, according to Vatican law, okay, that a Jesuit is not supposed to take the papal throne, but yet there he is, okay, took it over from John Paul, what is he, Ratzinger, or Benedict, took it from him, okay, because they knew, right, isn't it interesting when he took over the role of the head Antichrist, okay, 2013, right after the awakening happened within mankind, and a lot of us started asking questions. A lot of us started waking up, and not just waking up to the system. There was something very, very wrong with the system and how corrupt it was, but we started investigating beyond the system. That was what was different. We started looking at the spiritual, you know, factor in everything, the spiritual part of everything as well. And then look what happened. The head Jesuit changed hands, and they're still mates. So yeah, it was a coup, but he gladly stood down, because the Jesuit is the military arm of the Vatican, okay, and so he took control of the reins, because he's bringing it home, baby. He's bringing it home. And he is the one in charge. I mean, I love listening to all of these data analysts, okay? I listen to them all the time, because here we have very intelligent and very knowledgeable people when it comes to the monetary system and the system in which we've been enslaved. And they can't understand why the people in charge are doing what they're doing. And, you know, I'm hearing them say things like, it's almost like they're destroying it on purpose. And so they argue between, is it malice? Are they trying to actually destroy it on purpose, or are they just ignorant? And I know a lot of these data analysts literally believe that the government and the Fed and the people in control of these central banks are just ignorant and don't know what they're doing. I mean, this is great confirmation for me, and for all of us really, who are looking at this system and know that it is artificial and know that they are destroying it by design. And I have been warning about this for years and years, that we are going to have a global collapse, a global financial collapse. There's plenty of videos that I've done in regards to that. So just go and look on my channel and you'll find them. But when you're hearing really intelligent people scratching their head because there's things happening now in the financial system that they just don't understand, and that we're heading for this collapse, and it's almost like they don't understand how ignorant people in charge can be and how stupid they can be to make all these mistakes, and they're questioning, well, is this all by design? But I had one that I was listening to today, and he was saying that he thought that it was that they were actually his only conclusion that he can come to, because it's just so apparent now that what they're doing is destroying the system on purpose, is because they want to reset the system and bring in a central bank digital currency. And he said, he was asked, well, who's behind all of this? And he replied, well, I don't know who's behind all this, but I can just tell you that from what I'm seeing, nobody could be that ignorant and stupid to make all of these mistakes that they're making. It's literally showing me that there is a design behind this attempt to destroy our monetary system and our financial system. And I didn't comment on the video, because who would believe me if I said all roads lead to Rome? I can tell you who's behind everything. They've been behind everything for the last 1700 years, since the Council of Nicaea, since they started consolidating power. And then they just basically got more and more of a grip on power over each of the centuries, until they were literally just slaughtering people by the hundreds of thousands, about 700-800 years ago. Well, that started about 1,000 years ago, with the first Crusades. I mean, we really only know about, I think, the second and third Crusades, but there were Crusades before then. Believe me, we have had so much of our history that has been completely erased, erased, and we don't know. And that is literally something you can go and verify. There are hundreds of years where we don't know what happened. There's no record of it. So you only have to look at what is the most powerful organization on the planet that has been in continued power, handed down continued power for 1,700 years, since the Council of Nicaea. Well, that would be the effing Vatican, wouldn't it? Not even the frickin' royals have been in power that long. The most powerful organisation that is still in power today, where all the globalists go there and kiss his ring, and who has continually, you can trace back all the popes if you want, you can verify what I'm saying. So all roads lead to Rome. It is not hard to discover that all roads lead to Rome. It's just hard to process. It's just hard to understand. It's just hard to accept that they could be so evil, that they are doing to us and to mankind what they are doing right now. That everyone on the world stage is an actor. Trump's an actor. Biden's an actor. Hillary Clinton's an actor. Jerome Powell's an actor. Xi from China, the CCP, actor. Putin, actor. Macron, actor. Justin Trudeau, actor. Our Prime Minister right now, I can't even remember the idiot's name, Anthony Albanese, actor. Most of them have got ties to the Jesuits, blatant ties to the Jesuits, that you can, Justin Trudeau, his father was a Jesuit, and his father was also a Prime Minister, Jacinta Ardern, who was just the Prime Minister for New Zealand during the COVID shit show that they played out, and had some of the most stringent lockdowns and, the toughest laws surrounding all of that bullshit, was literally a student that was granted a scholarship from the Freemasons. The connections are there, and I'm not saying that because the Freemasons have been co-opted and infiltrated, that we now throw the baby out with the bathwater. No, we don't do that, because they had access to this knowledge too. And all of their symbolism is based on the same knowledge and the same truth that we are now studying, that was left to us from the ancients. Okay, the Freemasons, they started off with good intentions. They knew that the knowledge was being corrupted, it was being hoarded and corrupted, and so they took it to try and safeguard it. But just like the Knights Templar, they were infiltrated and they were corrupted and co-opted. And so the Freemasons today are nothing compared to what they used to be. But as I said, their symbolism is still very, very relevant and helpful in our studies when we're looking at this knowledge and trying to decode all of this information that was left to us by our ancient ancestors. So yes, it is not hard to know who the hidden hand is right now. It's just that people don't want to admit it. I don't know. People just, to me, I mean, I pretty much identified it from the beginning. I mean, actually, I wasn't the first to identify it. It was Danny Wilton who actually said to me, check these guys out. There's something really dark about these guys. You know, just have a look at this video. And that's when I started realizing, I mean, I always had this inherent hate for the Catholic Church. I was actually born a Catholic, and I did go to Catholic school for a little while, and it was one of the worst experiences of my entire life. That 1 year made a huge impression on me, and something that I carried through into my teenage years and probably even into adulthood, because it was just such a horrific experience that I had at that school. You know, the whole getting caned and corporal punishment and all of that stuff, you know. But yeah, when I started looking into it, I realized that they were always the common denominator in everything, and they had infiltrated everything. And that's what they've done. So it's really not that hard to know who our enemy are, guys. Really not hard to know at all. Okay, let us move on. 101. Whoever does not hate the father and the mother as I do cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not love the father and mother as I do cannot be my disciple. For my mother, and then it's missing something. They're showing that it's missing, fragments missing. But my true mother gave me life. Well, you must be willing to sacrifice the relationship of your family and your close friends for your true mother and father, which is God the Creator, who is androgynous, both mother and father. So that's pretty much self-explanatory. You don't have to hate them, but you can hate their behavior, you can hate their ignorance. Okay, of course we respect our mother and father because they gave us life and they nurtured us when we were young. I mean, some parents probably didn't do a very good job, okay, and maybe you have resentment because of that, but they are human after all, okay, so we have to also take that into account. And so, yeah, if you've got a really good relationship with your parents, then you're either one, really freaking lucky, or two, you're not being yourself and you're not telling them the truth. You're just trying to appease people because you don't like conflict. And if you don't like conflict and you just want to walk around appeasing everyone, then you're not really staying true to who you are or true to the Creator, because in these times people need to stand in their truth. It's part of our tests. Again, I'm not saying you need to walk around making enemies with everyone. You know, I certainly don't go into my job every day and preach to all of these atheists and idiots that I have to deal with every day and tell them this knowledge, because that is literally throwing pearls to dogs and pigs, all right? But you know when there's a time where you have to stand your truth, okay, and you can either back down and keep the peace and appease everyone, or you can actually walk in truth and say, you know what, well, I'm just going to be truthful here, and if that means that I no longer have a relationship with my parents because they will not accept that I am walking in my truth, then that is just the way it's going to be. And I am sorry for that, and I still love them and respect them as my parents, but I am not going to be deterred from the path of truth, because that is what is more important to me than anything else. 102. Jesus said, "Damn the Pharisees! They are like a dog sleeping in the cattle manger. The dogs neither eat nor let the cattle eat." And so that is basically, I have done a whole live stream about the Pharisees if you want to go and watch that, and that'll pretty much explain that verse for you in full. Okay, so I really don't have to go into that, and I pretty much have gone into a lot about the Pharisees in this video as well, because the Pharisees are the Vatican, the Catholic Church, and everybody who works under them. So that means every single pastor, clergy, priest, whatever you want to call them, that considers themselves to be a expert or an authority, I should say, over the scriptures. And of course they're making themselves an authority over the scriptures the moment they stand at that pulpit and that they start preaching the word. They have made themselves an authority over the scriptures, and so they are only preaching the canon that has been given to them from the higher level clergy. Okay, so they are Pharisees as well, even if in ignorance. Okay, the lower level clergy are pretty much ignorant to the fact that they are just tools of the devil. Okay, the devil being those who have taken control over the material plane and have weaponized the scriptures, okay, and religions. And they are the Antichrist as well, because they are against the Christ within you. They want to extinguish the Christ within you. And so that is why we have to protect the Christ within us by identifying our enemy. And our enemy are the Pharisees. So stay the hell away from the Pharisees, because they are taking the wide path and dragging all of these idiots along with them who have chosen ignorance, because they're cowards and they're spineless. And they don't have the courage to go and follow the teachings of Christ. Instead, they're following the teachings of men, because Christ was very clear in what he expected of them, and they are ignoring that in favor of easy teachings that are pleasant and that they want to hear. That is, oh, all you have to do is pray to Jesus, worship Jesus, sing songs to Jesus, and you will be saved by grace, and don't even worry about sin or anything, because Jesus already died for our sins, and don't worry about last judgment, because you're going to be raptured out of here before any of that happens. And Jesus is coming back, and he's your bestie, and you know, you're going to be good buddies with him. I mean, this is what they literally have been fooled into believing, these gullible fools. And no matter what you tell them, no matter how many times I try and help them and steer them on the right path, they will attack you, they will call you names, and they will not move from the wide path that they have decided to take, because they are lacking in character. Okay, they lack character, they lack fortitude, they lack backbone, they are lukewarm, they are not worthy of the Christ within. They are not worthy to be even calling themselves Christians. That is why I call them modern Christians, because they are not Christians in any sense or form. As I said, the last true Christians were the Gnostic Christians, and anybody that follows the scriptures that I'm reading now in the way that I'm interpreting them is a real Christian, is a real follower of Christ, but not these people that turn up to these buildings that have been, you know, built by the Pharisees for the Pharisees, who have the keys and have taken the keys and will not enter into the kingdom of the Father, nor will they allow others to enter into it either. All right, so 104, they said to Jesus, "Come, let us pray today and let us fast." Jesus said, "What sin have I committed, or how have I been undone? Rather, when the groom leaves the bridal seat, then let people fast and pray." So basically it's saying when the Christ no longer knows himself, people fast and pray to elevate sin. Okay, this is the way that they think they can elevate sin through operation, through some mechanical operation. Oh, I'm just going to go talk to a Pharisee and he's going to forgive me of all my sins. Or I just go and have to pay some money to a Pharisee and he's going to, give me an indulgence. I mean, have you ever heard of anything so ridiculous in your life that you can just go and give money to a priest and that is somehow going to elevate, alleviate the sin within you? Which is weight, by the way, and I've said that before. It's not like this, oh, you've sinned, you sinner. It's we collect weight every time we transgress divine law. Divine law was written in stone, hence Moses has the stone tablets. That is what that archetypal symbolism of the stone relates to. Written in stone, unchanging, cannot be moved. That's also what the sword in the stone means. Word of God, sword, okay, that sometimes you'll see in religious iconography. You'll see Jesus with a sword coming out of his mouth. So the sword is the word of God. The sword in stone is the unchanging word of God. It is law. It is divine law. It does not change. Do not transgress it, because every time you do, you will collect weight, sin. And at the end of the cycle, and even at the end of each of our material physical lives, okay, because we reincarnate continuously throughout the great year, and at the end of your physical incarnation, when you move across to the ethereal plane before you are going to be reincarnated again back into another biological garment and have another material experience, you will be placed on the ethereal plane according to the weight within you. If you have transgressed divine law over and over and over again because you're a piece of shit, maybe you're a murderer, a rapist, a pedophile, whatever, you're going to go to the depths of the ethereal plane, which is otherwise known as hell. Okay, but if you're a virtuous person and you've done good things in your life, you've lived a virtuous life, you've helped people, you've been selfless, then you'll go to the higher levels of the ethereal plane, otherwise known as heaven. The majority will go to the middle of the ethereal plane because most people are neutrals. Most people really don't stand for anything. And so they go to the middle area of the ethereal plane. And once again, I've forgotten the name for that. There is a name for the middle area of the material plane. You guys might remember it. But anyway, you get the gist of it, okay? So this is basically what happens when, we don't follow divine law. And nothing you can do in mechanical operation, as in praying, as in fasting, as in meditating, any of that stuff doesn't make one iota of difference to the weight in your soul. The only way you can remove weight in your soul is by basically redeeming yourself through actions, okay? Helping people, changing your ways. Stop indulging. If you're a drug addict, stop doing drugs, okay? If you're an alcoholic, stop doing purgatory. Thank you. It's exactly what I was talking about, yes. So the middle part, which is neither heaven nor hell, okay, it's just this non-part where you just hang until you're reincarnated, is purgatory, okay? So there is no mechanical operation that you can engage in. No human can redeem you of, just by praying over you or telling you to say 10 Hail Marys. That's not going to change anything. You have to stop engaging in the behavior where you are transgressing divine law, okay? And that is, drug taking, alcohol. Look, I'm not saying don't have a bong every now and then if you want, or don't have a drink, okay? It's all about moderation, okay? When you become that person where your sole focus in life is to smoke dope all the time or to drink all the time, then you have an unbalanced existence and an unbalanced experience, okay? and it's not healthy for you. Okay, so you're damaging your physical container, which, by the way, is part of the Creator, because it's a fragment of the Creator. So whatever you're doing to your body, you're doing that to the Creator as well. So, you know, again, I'm not saying the Creator mightn't like a nice, you know, little bit of artwork on your skin, you know, nice tattoo, you know, it's going to embellish, you know, but don't go out and get a full face job. Don't go out and get a full body job. That's not balanced. Okay, that's then defacing, okay, the container. Okay, you're saying that you can do a better job with your container than God has done. Okay, it's pretty much common sense, guys. All right, and that's really you know, all that's is required of us. And, you know, it's great. If people don't drink or smoke, that's even better, you know. But then you can actually go to the other end of that, where you can just solely focus on the health of your body, and then you can be like one of those gym nuts, you know, where they're just like hanging out of the gym all the time, and they're so focused on their diet, and there's no carbs, and they've got to have their protein shakes, and they've got to have their pre-workout shakes, and they've got to have their, you know, vegan diets. I mean, so that's the other end of the scale as well. Okay, remember, it's always about different degrees. You want to walk the middle part, the middle road. Okay, that's not to say you want to sit on the fence. There's, you know, that's not good. That's being lukewarm and not actually standing for good or standing for evil or standing for anything, you know. But you want to walk the middle path. That means you just want to do everything in moderation. Okay, so yes, be healthy. Okay, keep your physical container healthy. You don't want to be obese, but then you don't want to just solely focus on your physical container, that everything else around your life falls out of focus because all you're focused on is the way you look, because then that's vanity, you know. So again, guys, it's pretty much common sense. Okay. 107, Jesus said, the Father's kingdom is like a shepherd who had 100 sheep. One of them, the largest, went astray. He left the 99 and looked for that one until he found it. After he had toiled, he said to the sheep, I love you more than the 99. So you must sacrifice everything and be willing to sacrifice everything to find the real treasure. Okay. And that is your divine portion. And we know that the sheep, and this is why Jesus is called the Lamb of God, and why often you will see Jesus, and there's other saints as well, in their iconography are pictured with a lamb. Okay, Jesus is the best known. Okay, so I'll use Jesus as an example, and you often see him with the lamb around his neck, or he's carrying the lamb, and he's called the Lamb of God. The lamb is a symbol for our divine portion within. The reason that Jesus is known as the Lamb of God is because Jesus holds the divine portion to the highest degree of all in humanity, and that is why that symbol is usually represented with him. One, he represents the Christ, okay, that is within us all, but also because he has the Christ within him to the highest degree. And so it is telling us, it is using the symbolism of the sheep in this parable, so it's relating to the portion within us. And, you know, we need to focus on the portion, the treasure, the biggest portion, which is us, rather than focusing on others. Okay, it's about finding the portion within us, finding that divine within us, that divine nature. Then everything else can be added. Okay, but you have to know who you are yourself before you can even help anyone else anyway, or be of use to anybody else. You know, you can't be of use to anybody else in helping them elevate them out of ignorance if you are ignorant to who you are. And so that is pretty much what that means. You know, it's like the treasure is within, and that is your divine portion within, and it's worth more than, you know, that one thing is worth more than lots of other things, even though the lots of others, seem like the better deal because, well, look at how much I get. There's 99 there, but I'm only going to get one here. Even though that's the better one, that's the one you want to go with. Okay, that's what the parable relates to. 108. Jesus said, "Whoever drinks from my mouth will become like me. I myself shall become that person, and the hidden things will be revealed to him." So again, it's talking about knowledge. Okay, drinking from the mouth is listening to the word of Christ. Okay, knowledge is often shown as water in a cup. Okay, and it relates to the ethereal as well because, well, it's knowledge of the ethereal side of who we are in the ethereal plane, but it's also in abundance when the ether returns. And so that's why you see the Holy Grail. It relates to the cup. You see the Ace of Cups on the tarot. That's a great archetypal symbol as well that shows the Holy Spirit pouring into a cup, and from the cup it's overflowing, and it's just like this never-ending abundance because it's infinite. Knowledge has no beginning, no end. It just is. It's like, literally like God the Creator, no beginning, no end. And so that's basically what that is saying. And that hidden things, which is the occulted knowledge, you will understand. It will become manifest to you when you seek out the teachings of Christ. And as I said, it's all to do with motivation. You have to have the right motivation to seek out this knowledge. If you're seeking out this knowledge for clout, if you're seeking out this knowledge to profit from, then you are going to not be able to see beyond the veil. The veil will not be removed for you. It's just the way it works. You have to seek out this knowledge for no other reason than just you want to elevate yourself out of ignorance, and you want to find your divine nature and understand who you are on that level and understand your Creator. 109. Jesus said, "The Father's kingdom is like a person who had a treasure hidden in his field but did not know it. And when he died, he left it to his son, and the son did not know about it either. He took over the field and sold it. The buyer went ploughing, discovered the treasure, and began to lend money at interest to whomever he wished." So that is just basically talking about how the ignorance of man when we fall into the lower ages just is passed down through the generations. Okay, and then when someone finds the treasure, like the Vatican, okay, and gathers up the treasure, the knowledge, then they can use that to increase their power and utilize that leverage over others because they have that knowledge. So that's pretty much what that. So our divine nature is inherent, and it is our birthright. And it is our personal responsibility to go and find who we really are and to discover the treasure within. And as I've said, especially for Western cultures right now, ignorance is a choice. Right now in these times, we have access to the knowledge that we need to be able to piece back together an understanding for all of this information. It's getting harder and harder to access a lot of this knowledge. I do find these days when I'm looking for things, it's not as easy as it used to be when I was basically piecing all of this back together. You can still find it, but it just does take some time of going through all of the different pages of Google and seeking and searching it out. I'll give you a couple of examples. Johann Friede, the prophecy of Johann Friede. You can literally only find that on one website now, which is a Catholic, related to a Catholic organization. And that website has omitted the part of the prophecy where Johann talks about the Greater Bear constellation and how that has a connection to the illumination of the Orion nebula and the Orion constellation and Orion. Okay, so however, I did find a link to a German website. It's all written in German and it has to be translated from German, but that was only because somebody gave me that link when I uploaded the video that I did of that prophecy. And so that is really the only information that I can find now on the internet in regards to that prophecy. Whereas when I first did that video, there were lots of links in regards to that prophecy that you could find. It's the same with the Hopi, Blue Kachina, Red Kachina mythology. Very hard to find a full prophecy, a full the full scripture, the full, what would I say, relaying of that prophecy. You have to look for it. It's there. I found it. It's under that video about Betelgeuse and Orion. It's been there since I've done the video because I went out and looked for it. It just took a little bit of effort. It's not that you can't find it. You just need to be smarter than the algorithms and Google. Okay, so don't leave it any longer, because there will be a time where they take down the internet, and when it comes back up, you're not going to have access to any of this knowledge. So I would say go get a hard copy of the Nag Hammadi Gospels, or print them out and have a copy for yourself, and go get a hard copy of the Colburn Bible. It is about $100, but it's probably one of the best investments you will ever make in your life. Okay, and those are the two main scriptures that I would definitely recommend, as well as anything from the Hermetica, the Kabbalion. Okay, hard copies of those would be really good as well. And from that, you can pretty much piece together what they stole from us. And this is why you will not see the Catholic Church mention the Nag Hammadi Gospels or mention the Colburn. Oh, they'll mention the Book of Enoch. Okay, you go do a Google on the Book of Enoch and you'll see that, oh yes, well, it's not canonical, so we don't recommend you read it, but you won't see them mention at all the Nag Hammadi Gospels or the Colburn. In fact, Wikipedia took down their article, their reference to the Colburn Bible. Okay, they took it down completely because they don't want people even thinking about it, even knowing of its existence. This is how they work. They don't care that people read the Book of Enoch. I've read the Book of Enoch. There's nothing in the Book of Enoch that is particularly exciting or going to tell you anything that, you know, the Bible won't tell you anyway. Okay? So look for what they don't talk about at all. All right, let's keep going. 110. Jesus said, "Let one who has found the world and has become wealthy renounce the world." Well, again, when you find the world, you see it's a carcass. When you find the world, when you know what the world really is, you know that it is not the source of life. Okay, it is just the extension of the ethereal. It's the extension of the ethereal plane. Remember how I said that everything is in vibration and everything is in hierarchy from highest to lowest, the macrocosm to the microcosm. Now the macrocosm, the hierarchy, the way vibration works is that the higher the vibration, the more ethereal it is. So the highest vibration, of course, is the creator. And then it starts moving down in a lower vibration until it goes into its most grossest form, which is the material world. Okay, so it is literally an extension of the ethereal plane. And so when you discover that the material plane isn't the be and all of everything, okay, isn't the full extent of who you are, okay, and your existence, then you understand that the importance is the ethereal, is your soul, not your body, it's your soul. The importance is the ethereal plane. Yes, it's important in the physical plane as well, because our experience as a soul in the material plane determines our experience in the ethereal plane. Remember what I was just saying about weight. Every time we transgress divine law and it adds weight to us, then that's going to determine our experience in the ethereal realm. But the ethereal realm is really first and foremost who we are as created beings, but also our experience as souls originates in the ethereal realm. Okay, we're moving right along now, aren't we? All right, 1:11. Jesus said, the heavens and the earth will roll up in your presence, and whoever is living from the living one will not see death. So that's talking about the soul. The living one is the soul. Those living from the soul will find life, and everything is going to be revealed. That's what it means. The heavens and earth will roll up. It's probably, again, a translation about roll up. They've probably just used that English word, but it probably means pulled back, revealed, uncovered. Okay, it's like the apocalypse uncovers the truth. Okay, the veil is removed, the curtain is pulled back, and we get to see the truth. That is coming. Okay, I know it's very hard for us to imagine in a time of such materialism that this is ever going to be the case. But these are our tests, because we really do have to investigate fully all of this knowledge so that we understand the divine operation on the material world. And it has to become knowledge to you guys too. And I've said this over and over, and I'll repeat it again on the last video I have of this decoding, is that you cannot rely on me to give you the truth. All I can do is show you the way. I can open the door for you and say, well, this is what I've found so far, and this is what my studies and my research have uncovered for me. But you really need to go and look at this information, and then you need to cross-reference this across all of the different cultures and all of the different scriptures from, the Quran, from the Hindu text, from the Hermetica, from the Bible, the Nag Hammadi Gospels, archetypal symbolism, numerology, all of the mythologies from the ancients, like the ancient Greeks, the ancient Romans. And you need to do this continually to build up an understanding for yourself, so you know this beyond a level of just believing me. Okay, so if you're just someone that skips from video to video and takes bits and pieces of like what you like that I say, okay, I like that, and I like that, I'm keeping that. And then you go over to another video and you like parts of what he says, so you're like, yep, and then you're creating your own version of reality. Well, really all you're doing is you may as well go and listen to the Pharisees. You may as well go and listen to some New Age charlatan tell you what to believe, because what you're doing is you're propping up your own beliefs that you want to have. There's a lot about this knowledge that isn't really nice to look at, and which is why I'm not a very popular channel, because I talk about last judgment. I talk about that we are accountable. I talk about that if we transgress divine law, that we're going to create sin within our soul, and that is going to basically relate to our experience on the ethereal plane. And people don't like to hear that, because it means accountability. People just want an easy path in these times. People just want to hear, well, I can just go and meditate on a, certain, chant from a monk, and I can, enlighten myself that way. I can just eat this diet. I can fast. I can do this, this, this. I can go and take ayahuasca, go and visit some Peruvian elder. Most of the Peruvian elders, in fact, all of the people over in Peru and the Andes, that are giving tourists this ayahuasca and promising them these spiritual experiences are charlatans, because the real elders of Peru, the shaman, they stay up in the highlands. They never come down to where the tourists go. But you see, most New Agers don't want to hear that either, because they want to believe that all they have to do is go over to Peru and go and have some ayahuasca and have this spiritual experience, take some mushies, you know, have a trip, have a psychedelic experience, and that's made them more spiritual. They don't want to listen about accountability. They don't want to be accountable. Hey, what are you talking about that stuff for? That's not fun. You know, you're a real stick in the mud, D. You're a real doomer, D. You know, why are you talking about that stuff? You should be talking about the third eye. You should be talking about how you can just meditate on the third eye, and that all this knowledge is just going to be falling into my lap and I am just going to be enlightened. That's what I want to believe. I don't want to believe the shit that you're talking, because it's just bullshit to me. I want to believe this channeler that says that they tap into this alien called Bashar. Oh, he was big back in 2012, you know, telling them all what they wanted to hear. I don't want to hear what you've got to say, Dee. I'm listening to Bashar. He's more mystical than you. You know, that's pretty much what I have experienced the entire time that I have decided to share my research and studies with everybody else. Partly because it just helped me in my research, because it confirmed for me what I was finding when others were helping me with their own studies, which is what a lot of the students of the teachings who are still walking the same path with me, Ronnie, Chris, Anna, Rochelle, okay, I can literally name you guys on, you know, one hand. I mean, there are more. I know there are more. Okay, but I'm just talking about, you know, those who have actively continued to help research and bring, you know, more confirmations to what I was initially finding. And, you know, it was a team effort a lot of the time. You know, basically everybody else just did not want to accept what I was finding. But, you know, so that the main reason, yeah, was that I felt a responsibility also to bring forward this knowledge to others, because I couldn't believe that others didn't know it, and I thought they should, because it is, this knowledge belongs to mankind. Okay, this knowledge belongs to everybody. And so my duty ends with me when I finish this video and I turn it off. I've done my job. You know, I've brought forward as much information in the best way I can. I'm not perfect at, you know, sometimes giving you guys a clear explanation. I apologize for that. And sometimes I can swear, sometimes I rant, sometimes I go off onto tangents, but at the end of the day, I'm doing my best. And I'm trying to bring forward all of the knowledge that I've put back together with help, as I said, of others. And there were some people that were very instrumental in me discovering a lot of this information in the beginning. And I've just basically taken what we put back together then. Okay, Danny Wilton, I'm talking to you. Very, you know, significant finds back in 2012 were made, you know, with help of others, and I've just continued on from there. And so that is the reason that I'm putting forward this information still, is that I feel like I have a responsibility to do it. And because, as I said before, it's helpful when you guys find other confirmations and then let me know, like that happened in the last live stream, and that's awesome. That is, you know, exactly one of the reasons I do this too. But, you know, it is because once we do have an understanding for this knowledge, we do have a responsibility to share it with others too. And you will know when you get to that point where you understand this to the deepest level where it becomes knowledge to you and you absolutely know it beyond a doubt, that you then feel confident enough where you can start actually relaying this information to others as well. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to make the flame burn brighter, and then I'm hoping that when I pass this flame on to others, that we are igniting or enlarging, adding to the flame, and just literally when, trying to keep this flame burning, but actually ignite it so it's even brighter and brighter. And every time someone else understands this information to the level that it becomes knowledge to them, and it becomes, they know it beyond any doubt, that flame just gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And the Antichrists hate it. And it's a big FU to them as well, because I hate them. All right. Jesus said, this is 1:12, Jesus said, damn the flesh that depends on the soul, and damn the soul that depends on the flesh. So again, balance. Remember what I was saying, walk the middle path. You've got to acknowledge not only your spiritual part and your ethereal part, your soul, but also your flesh. And you can't depend on either, because, people that just walk around too spiritual, like these new agers, who just everything's love and light, and they're just walking around namaste, and, they go to these music festivals, and they're vegan, and they've got dreadlocks, and they, they all live in certain areas, and they're very hippie and the whole thing. I mean, that's not healthy. Okay. They're all just propping each other up with their own beliefs anyway. And from my experience, because I used to live in a town that was, very bohemian and, that hippie style, they're hippie crits. I had such a disappointing revelation when I found the truth, when I scratched the surface, and I found out that they were all hippie crits. And that was because when I found this knowledge, and I was so excited, and, I wanted to go out and tell all these people who I thought was spiritual and, would be open to this knowledge. And I was literally met with negativity and, people just were not spiritual. They have their beliefs. They're like religious people of these times, these modern Christians, and they do not want to be shifted from what they've decided their beliefs and their reality is going to be. Okay, 1:13. His disciples said to him, when will the kingdom come? Jesus answered, it will not come by watching for it. It will not be said, look here or look there. Rather, the Father's kingdom is spread out upon the earth and people don't see it. So that's pretty self-explanatory as well, is that everything is the Father's kingdom. Everything is in divine operation right now. Everything happening now is part of divine operation, even the evil stuff. Okay, because we've chosen this path, all right? It's not God did this to us. We did this to us, because there were many paths before us, and this is the one as a collective that we chose to go down, and we are still choosing to go down. Now, for example, we know that the people in charge of our governments are all corrupted. Okay, we know if you're, let's just take an example here, and I'm not going to get into political infighting, so please don't bring it down to that. This is just an example, because by the way, for the record, Trump is as corrupted as Biden, okay? Remember when I just said they're all characters playing their part in the script? So let's just take an example of how divine operation is literally playing out before us, and we're choosing evil. Because, so when Trump was in power, okay, we saw that he was not actually who he said he was going to be, okay? He was the father of the vax. He supported the state of Israel, which was, as I said, created in 1947, okay? He basically propped up the military-industrial machine, okay, just like Obama did. There was really no difference. He went over to Syria. He dropped to Moab. He, basically said, we're taking the oil. And he went and put the troops in there, and they literally went and took the oil and went and, protected the oil fields. He was buddies with the Saudis, even though 2 years beforehand he was blaming the Saudis for 9/11. I mean, I could go on, guys. I could go on. And this is where I lose a lot of people, because they're so desperate for a saviour. So desperate for a saviour that they hold the bar so effing low that this dude, who has always just been a charlatan and a materialist businessman, will do, as long as it's not the other guy, okay, or the other woman, which was Hillary, and everybody hated her. So anyone that wasn't her, he'll do, and we'll support him. But we found when he was put in that position that he didn't do anything he was going to do. He didn't drain the swamp. He added to the swamp, okay, and he was just cut by the same cloth as the rest of them, right? He proved that to us, okay? Now we've got Biden, and he is so outwardly corrupt, it's hard to even fathom. I mean, his son is literally a cokehead that left a baggie of coke in the White House, and the FBI went and destroyed the evidence without even taking fingerprints from it or investigating it, okay? And now it doesn't even make news anymore. We know that the media, okay, are literally just not calling him out for anything unless they absolutely can't get away with it, which is what's happening with his son, is that they just can't get away with all of this corruption of his son, that they have to report on it, okay? But everything else, I mean, he is showing himself to be, one of the most corrupt politicians that have ever been in power, and nobody is doing anything about it, okay? Everybody's just as though it's business as usual, okay? I mean, Maui literally just burned to the ground, and when he was asked, oh, do you have anything to say about what happened in Maui? He said, no comment. I mean, he represents the American people. He is their mouthpiece. He's not an oligarch. He's not a dictator, okay? He's a representative of the people. He's put in his position to represent the people. So when he says no comment, he's saying that the American people have no comment about what just happened to their brothers and sisters over in Maui. I mean, so his corruption is so blatant, all right? It is so on display. And yet no one is doing anything about it. And so everybody is then going to be shocked when the next stage of the script plays out, and we reap what we are sowing right now, which is our apathy. Because nobody's doing anything. Because, hey, as long as I've got my beer, my football, as long as everybody just leaves me alone and doesn't bother me, then I don't really give a shit what happens. I mean, that's pretty much the attitude of 95% of the people over in Western countries, my country included. Okay, so we are going to reap what we sow, and we're going to be given a big lesson, because right now the antichrists who are in power are playing out their version of biblical prophecy. Okay, so everything that happens with divine operation, they are going to do their own version of it. So yes, the plague has been, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to actually have another. That was just a beta test for something else that's even worse. Yes, there's going to be food shortages. Okay, there's going to be, everything. There's going to be war. There's going to be their version of Armageddon, which is going to be thermonuclear Armageddon, which will be the last card that they play. Okay, which is why you want to ensure that you don't have a fear of death. Because it's going to get really dark, guys. It's going to get really dark. And if you don't understand that you are a soul first and foremost, and you do, you know, you don't fear death, then they have power over you still. So you must remove that fear of death and understand that your physical garment is not the full extent of who you are. This physical world is not the full extent of everything, and it's part of a cycle, and it's all part of the divine operation, even the bad stuff. And as I said, we've chosen this, so don't go blaming God. Okay, it's like people that blame God for giving that child leukemia. Or what kind of God gives a child leukemia? Really? How much plastic is that kid ingesting every week? Because they've worked out that we're all ingesting about a teaspoon of microplastics every week. Okay. How much toxins is that child inhaling every day as they walk through the street, as they play with their toys, their plastic toys from China, as they eat all those preservatives, all of that food colouring? But we're going to blame God for giving that child leukemia. Bunch of freaking hypocrites is what we've turned into. And these atheists are the worst of the worst, because they really are shallow thinkers, as I've said, and there really is no hope for them at all. All right, so now this last one, they're saying that it was probably added to the original collection at a later date. I'm going to read it anyway. And it could be either a mistranslation, it could be added on. I'm going to try and interpret it the best I can. And it is up to you guys whether you want to include it into the Nag Hammadi Gospel, into the Gospel of Thomas, or you do think it's just been added in at a later time. So it says, Simon Peter said to them, "Make Mary leave us, for females don't deserve life." And Jesus said, "Look, I will guide her to make her male, so that she too may become a living spirit resembling you males. For every female who makes herself male will enter into the kingdom of heaven." So it doesn't really make much sense, okay? Even applying Hermetics and all of the other knowledge that I've been gathering, you know, and all of the other understanding of the esoteric information, you can't really make a female male. It could be a misinterpretation of a parable, because there is and I do have a video of the prophecy of Jesus, which is taken from the Colburn Bible, where Jesus does say that men will dress like women and women will dress like men. Okay, so that could be that that Mary may not be with us. Okay, and Mary is related to the Holy Grail. Remember, the Holy Grail is related to knowledge. That could also relate to Mary Magdalene and the Holy Grail and knowledge. And so when Mary is no longer with us, just like Christ is no longer with us, we don't have access to knowledge. And females will be removed from having any access to the knowledge with organized religion too, because look at what the Catholic Church have done to the scriptures. They literally have corrupted the scriptures to say that females should never actually relay knowledge at all, that it is against, you know, the law against God for a female to relay knowledge. Now, isn't that ridiculous when you understand that half of the Creator is female? So are we saying that the Creator now isn't actually acknowledging half of himself? Okay, so the female mind is different to the male mind in the way that it processes information, and this is why there is gender of the intellect, mental gender. You'll see this in the Kabbalion, in the 7 principles of the universal laws. And so that is because the female has understanding, and this is even in the Kabbalah, okay? The female is Bina, and the male is Chokmah. So the male draws down the wisdom and holds the wisdom, is the vessel for the wisdom, has the direct access to divine revelation. And normally in archetypal symbolism, because that's the way that the Creator speaks, is through symbols. And then from that, the female has the understanding of those symbols and decodes them, and has an understanding for the knowledge and the symbols that he is relaying, so she can put it in a way to understand that. So the two must work together. So one or the other cannot just have full possession of an understanding for divine revelation or divine truths without help of the other. It's almost like divine operation has made us rely on each other and come together to help each other unravel the knowledge. And you'll see that even in the tarot card symbolism of the major arcana. You see the magician, he's holding up the scroll, so he's receiving the scroll from the creator, he's receiving divine revelation. And then when you see the high priestess, she's got it unraveled on her lap, so she is having an understanding for that knowledge that he has just brought down. So I have more information about that in my other videos as well, guys, if you want to go and look into that a little bit more. Okay, and we're right at 2 hours here, guys, so I think we've pretty much finished that. And yeah, I'm going to leave it there. So for all of you guys that have joined me today, thank you very much for joining me once again. It's good to start seeing some regulars. I appreciate you joining me for my live streams. I hope that I've done a good job of this decoding. As I've said, if you have any additional information that you have found in any of the other scriptures or symbolism or any of the mythologies, please do share it, because it just helps us to get a clearer picture. And Jason Brazia. No, if you have a look at it, it was not Basher, it was Bashar. It was Bashar. I can't remember his real name, but he was eventually revealed to be a fraud. But I remember trying to bring attention to this guy and say he's channeling. I mean, he can literally just tell us anything, and because he's got this mystical way of talking, and the way he was talking was like he used to, be just relaying this knowledge and, clicking into the, and nobody wanted to listen to me, So anyway, as I said, truth is not pretty. Parts of truth are not pretty. Parts of truth are great and empowering, but parts of truth are not pretty, and especially for people that don't want to take responsibility for their own behavior and for their actions. And unfortunately, none of us is going to get out of it. We can kid ourselves, we can lie to ourselves, and we can pretend that we can just keep going on and on and on the way we're doing, and it's just going to allow us. But at some time, at the appointed time, masks are going to be removed, and we're going to have to face ourselves. And are we going to like what we see? Because it's going to count. It's going to matter. So unfortunately, I wish I could say all of the great stuff. My channel would probably be 10 times bigger. I'd be a YouTube partner and probably give up full-time work. Who knows, but I'm sorry. I won't tell people what they want to hear. I have to speak the truth. I have to speak the truth because it is the truth. And I don't think I could live with myself anyway if I was just somebody who was lying to others because it was profiting me. And anyway, I wouldn't even have access to all of this truth if I was one of those people that was doing it for some agenda or doing it because I was making money from it. Well, then the veil would remain, and I would, would remain over my eyes, and I would, not be able to see this for what it truly was. I would not be guided to be able to put this all back together, because it wasn't just me and it wasn't just the other students that put this back together. I was being guided the whole time by my father, okay? Because if I wasn't worthy of this, I wouldn't have it. But for some reason, and it's still, I can't understand it to this very day, because I can tell you I am no angel. Okay, I try my best now, but I am still, I fall. Okay, I am no angel. and all I do is try to be a better person. And so it part of having to understand this knowledge is coming to terms with the fact that you may not feel worthy for it. Okay, you may not feel that you're worthy of being able to understand this knowledge, and that may seem something that is hard to understand. And you know, I still have my moments, but I can't deny what I can continually confirm over and over and over and over again. Okay, because I'm not just telling you what I believe, I'm literally backing it up with information I've gathered from other sources that continue to confirm what I'm telling you. So I haven't just gone, oh, this is what it means because I think it means it. I'm telling you because I've studied Hermetics, I've studied all of the mythologies, I've studied the scriptures of other religions, I've studied archetypal symbolism, I've studied the Kabbalah Tree of Life and Kabbalah, and putting it all together is confirmed over and over again the same truths that I'm giving to you right now. So that's pretty much why I know that if you guys go and try and investigate this further, you'll be able to find what I found. Or if you guys want to debunk me, that's critical thinking, please go ahead. Go find something, bring it to me and prove me wrong. Because again, I want to know. I'm not here to say I'm right and everybody's wrong. I'm here to say, well, so far, I can't find anything else that has shown me that what I have uncovered and put together so far is incorrect. So if I am, please bring forward, you know, the information. I don't just want people to say, well, I heard some guy say this or some person reckons this. Yeah, I hear that all the time. I want them to do what I have done and gone and shown you the sources where I bring this information, because every single video I've done, I give you the sources for where I've got that information from. Nothing that I ever have given you is because I just believe it. You know, I show, well, this is where I got it from, you know. Some things are a little thin, you know, I don't have as much information as I wish I did as other things. But for the most part of it, the main part of it, the meat of it all, yeah, I can confirm it over and over and over and over again. And you know what? They confirm it for me as well all the time, because a lot of their Hollywood productions, because that's their version of biblical scripture, they love to put out all of these symbols and all of this knowledge, and they bastardize it. So you have to know what you're looking at, because they will twist it. But a lot of it gets confirmed just in their Hollywood productions. In fact, I watched one last night, and I recommend everybody go and watch one because it's full of symbolism. You have to look in the background. You have to look beneath the story. But go and watch Unbreakable. I'm yet to watch the 2 sequels. I'm about to do that. Hopefully I'll watch one tonight and maybe one tomorrow night. But go and watch Unbreakable. But that is just one of many. One of many. They love to use the superhero comics. They love to use the superhero stories, Marvel and DC, and they leave a lot of subtle symbolism to all of this knowledge that I'm relaying here too. So a lot of times they've confirmed for me things that I've read and put back together, and then it'll be in one of their Hollywood productions, and I just say thank you. Thank you, because while you're actually doing this to mock the divine souls, because they're not here to defend themselves, but all you're really doing is just giving me confirmations. So thank you for letting me know that I'm on the right track, because that's exactly what they're doing for me. So even though why they actually do it is to mock the divine souls and also to lead mankind astray, because as I said, they do twist them. There is a lot of corruption of the symbolism as well. And I mean, we can see that with them turning Thor into a female, you know, just things like that. But they do actually keep a lot of the symbols intact, because they're sending a message. They're sending a message to the creator to say, F you, we've got full control and we can bastardize all of the truths and you can't do anything about it. But again, it's all part of divine operation. They're being given enough rope to hang themselves. And, you know, we've taken this path as well. We've chosen this path. So we can't just blame this on God and God's brought us to where we are now and all of this evil when we've actually chosen this path. So, all right, guys. Well, I'm going to leave it there. And again, thank you very much for joining me. My next live stream will hopefully be next week. And I do have some information that I want to bring you guys about Betelgeuse and how it relates to the Hopi prophecy and what we're seeing with the red Kachina, blue Kachina, and also the brightening of the blue star in the constellation of the Greater Bear. So there's a couple of more confirmation, not a lot, but I think it's important that I do just bring this additional information. It does, you know, one of the other bits of information is from another one of the students of the teachings, and he found something very interesting in the Greek mythology. So I just did think that that was important to finish up that live stream in regards to what we're seeing with prophecy and the Native American prophecy. That's just another confirmation. So I think that's important that we bring that one into the public realm as well. And then you guys have got more confirmation. And as I said, if you guys can find any additional information as well, it's always welcome. So that's something that I'm hoping to bring to you guys next week. Well, I'm going to leave it here. Once again, thank you all for joining me. Have a great week, and I shall see you next week. So as always, peace out.